Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another night of our Career Opportunity Series. This is already evening number 11. We're excited for those of you that have been here with us throughout this series. During this series, we've been working to share with you many different interesting career paths for you to explore, learn about, to enrich, to give you opportunity to really think about what your best career options are. Tonight, we're doing something a little different. I have a special treat for you. We have with us tonight our esteemed guest, Jeffrey Prince, somebody who I work with on a daily basis. I'll speak more about him in just a moment, but I just wanted to remind all of you that are watching, the JCC Workforce Program is a program that's here for you year-round. We're here to help you with all of your career needs. We have a job placement specialist, two of them. Jeff is one of those that work every single day to help people land jobs. We have a career counselor to help you figure out your best career path. We have free resume writing and interview prep. All of these things year-round, free service for the community. So please reach out to us at any time. You see the email address here, workforce@jccgci.org. Please email us at any time. We're here to help. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Jeffrey Prince. Jeffrey Prince is a veteran in the job placement industry. He's been working for many years as a job placement specialist, and he's been a team leader, coordinating. He led many people in a large team of job developers, and he's placed many people in jobs over the years, and he's helped many people land those jobs, because one of the most important things to land a job after you have a nice resume is that you got to go to an interview. And you got to impress your employer. You got to get them to buy into you and believe in you. And that interview is really critical for your success in landing the job. So tonight, Jeff is going to talk about how to ace an interview. And especially nowadays, in this time we're living right now, where people need to sometimes do their interview by Zoom. And, so it's a little different. You're not in the room, and sometimes you might do the wrong things. So Jeff is going to talk also about how the right way to act on a Zoom interview, so that you ace that interview and you land that job, and Mr. Shem, you launch your career, a successful career, and bringing Parnassa for you and for your family. So without further ado, Jeff, I'm going to pass on the presentation to you. If you share your screen so that your PowerPoint comes up, and you're off.
Okay. Hello?
Yes, I hear you just now. You got to share that screen.
Okay.
Good, there you go. Okay, there you are. You got it.
Okay. So good evening, everyone, and thank you very much, Rabbi Reddy, for your very nice introduction. And just before I begin, I'll just say a few words about myself and my background. As Rabbi Reddy said, I'm actually with the JCC of Greater Coney Island, and we have many different programs, several different programs helping people in the frum community, in Crown Heights and throughout Brooklyn, to find jobs, to prepare them for jobs, and to obviously help them with the interviews, which are really the basic ways of getting jobs. I've been doing this for a number of years. And
Jeff.
Yes.
Speak a little louder if you don't mind.
Okay.
Your voice is a little muffled.
I've been helping people find jobs for a number of years. And one of the programs that I am involved with is called the Parnassa Employment Services Program. We do career counseling. We do interview preparation, which is what tonight is about, resume revisions and preparations, and job placement, and job development and job placement. So just to go into the presentation, and if there's time, we'll definitely take questions at the end of it. So what is an interview? It really is to allow the employer or the hiring manager the opportunity to evaluate the qualifications and the credentials of a person. The goal is to identify whether a candidate is an ideal match for the company. But at the end of the day, an interview is really, and I think for purposes of the audience tonight, it's like a shidduch date. I mean, all the preparations that you would do if you're going on a shidduch date, your appearance, your punctuality, your grooming, um, your manners, your communication, all of it is going to play a role in whether into the actual employer or the hiring manager is going to consider you a fit for the job. Okay, so there are several different types of interviews, and we are going to discuss Zoom as well, as Rabbi Rudy mentioned as he began tonight's talk. The first part, though, is the telephone screening interview. And really, this is how it all starts. I mean, you've submitted your resume and ideally your cover letter, or at least, you know, a little description of why you're sending the resume to the employer, and they're interested. So, you know, they will most likely telephone you to do what I'd call a 5-minute phone screen. It's really just to see, can you move on to the next interview phase? Number one, when they're trying to phone you, are you going to answer your phone? So you really, you know, the number, you know, ideally you'll probably be putting your cell number on your resume. Make sure you have your cell with you and that it's on and that it's ready when people call. And even if you don't know the number, that you're going to pick it up. Because sometimes people will not answer a number that they're not familiar with. But when you're interviewing, you do have to pick up the phone and you have to, they're going to see how you speak, the quality of your voice, how you respond to them. You know, they might just, you know, unfortunately screen you out based on that. But again, everything is a learning curve, and telephone screening is the first step. Ideally, assuming the phone screen goes well, you'll be moving to the next phase, which is an in-person interview. Now, this also might be a Zoom interview nowadays, but just calling it an in-person interview right now, it's really a one-on-one interview with the hiring manager or the employer to see if you're, you know, you're qualified, if your personality is a match, if your professional style is a match. And again, you have to think appearance, punctuality. The worst thing you could do is arrive at an interview late. And you know, many times, you know, I've been working with people, that is the, you know, biggest mistake. They don't allow enough travel time. If you have to be at an interview, you have to give yourself enough travel time, you know, even if you're taking mass transportation, to walk from the mass transit to the actual place. If they're in a building, allow time to get up there. You may have to fill out some forms. So you really want to try to arrive at an in-person interview about 10 to 15 minutes early. Not so early that, you know, you're 2 hours ahead of time, and that's also a no-no, but that you're punctual. Again, think of a shidduch date. Would you, if you're going out with someone and you're going, you know, to meet them, would you pick them up an hour late or would you pick them up an hour early? No, you'd want to arrive on time. And that's the way you have to look at this. First impressions count. Honestly, people will form a very solid opinion of you in the first 10 to 15 seconds that they're meeting you. So it is so important how you look and how you behave and how you act. An in-person interview can grow to an, it could become, if you know, in the days when we were still doing this in-person interviews, they might want to bring in another colleague to also meet you. So then it could become a group or panel interview. Sometimes they might even bring in 2 people. It could be you're meeting with the owner, but now they want to meet, they want you to meet your immediate supervisor, or you're meeting with the immediate supervisor who might in turn want to introduce you to the owner. So you know, you do have to be prepared to possibly interview with more than one person. You have to sort of know how to handle it. It might throw you off momentarily, but you have to not let it throw you off completely. And again, that, you know, let's just talk about Zoom for a couple of minutes. It's not even on this presentation because it's such a new format, but it really is the way we are living right now, and probably, I'm going to say, for the next several months, possibly longer, because even when we go into the post-COVID period, which, you know, Meretz Hashem should be soon, employees may still keep Zoom as their primary way of meeting you, at least for the first time. So again, when you're doing a Zoom, you want to have your computer, your camera set up in the right part of your home. You want to make sure you look presentable, that you are actually, you know, looking appropriate for an interview, that you're not too casually dressed or not casually dressed at all. You have to take it with the same feeling of professionalism as if you're going to the office. You have to not do things like slouch in your chair or just, background noise. Make sure people, if you're living with other people, that you don't hear their background noise. And also that you're not doing something like drinking a mug of coffee or a bottle of water, because those are distractions, and the interviewer will assume you're not taking it that seriously, because you probably wouldn't be drinking coffee or having your water in an in-person interview. So these are all the things that you should be aware of when you're doing an interview. So appearance again, and I'm gonna just appearance. Your first impression is the employer, the hiring managers, their first impression is probably going to be their last impression. Again, you want to consider your wardrobe, especially for the men that are listening. I know the women will pay attention to this, but for the men, your wardrobe, you must make sure your clothes are clean and they look good. And your facial expressions, your hygiene, is your hair combed? How do you come across? And these things often play a very large role in whether or not you will get the job. They want to make sure, again, this is like a shidduch date. How does this person look? How do they act? Would I want this person to join my company for the next period of time, perhaps for the next 20, 30 years? So these are important things to think about. Okay, now there are numerous questions. There are what we call 8 commonly asked questions at job interviews, and we're going to discuss them one by one. But I also want to say what should not be asked at an interview, and you should be aware of this. Employers are not supposed to be asking personal things like your age. That is really, they may know it. If you're a young person graduating school, whatever, maybe it's not necessary to ask that. But if you're a more mature candidate, they're not supposed to be asking your age. It's not their concern if you're in your 40s or your 50s or even your 60s or older. They're not supposed to be asking, are you married, or your marital status? Again, maybe that's obvious. Maybe you're wearing a wedding ring. Married women will be having a hair covering, but they're not supposed to ask that. It's not for them to know whether you're married or separated or divorced. They're not supposed to ask if you have children or the ages of your children. These are all personal questions. They're not even, supposed to be asking if you're currently working, what your salary is. That is actually not information they are allowed to ask. So again, if you volunteer this information, again, that's your decision. Sometimes, in an interview in a Hamish environment, there is the feeling that, well, it's just between us. So, are you married? Do you have kids? Maybe, you want to have a job schedule that is more flexible, and therefore you may volunteer that you have children or younger children, and therefore you do want to leave at a certain time to be home in the afternoon for your children. Again, that's, your call, but these are what the employer should not be asking. So let's just go through, the list of questions is here, but I'm going to go through them one at a time. Let's start with, tell me a little about yourself. They're not really looking for you to go into a whole personal history of what you like to do in your free time, or your hobbies, or who your favorite baseball players are, or anything like that. You want to keep it really tachlis. It's information that's pertaining to your education, your work experience, your goals, and your future aspirations. Again, you're trying to keep it professional all the time. They want to know what you did in the past, what you are doing now, and why you are interested in the field that you're interviewing in. How did you hear about this position? Okay, now, again, this is really, they may or may not ask this. This is really a very quick, you saw it, the job posting. Perhaps you have a friend or relative who referred you to the job, but you don't want to get sidetracked. Again, you want to really continue with why you think it was a good opportunity and why you believe you would be the perfect fit for this position. Okay, the employer is going to say, this is a question I'm sure they will ask you most of the time, what do you know about our company? And this is where you really want to make sure you have done your homework. And just as, if you're going to go on a shidduch date with someone, you probably will be doing a little research on who he is or who she is and a little about their family. You do want to know, if you're going for a job, you should look at, nowadays, most companies, even small ones, have a website. So it's possible, in the telephone screen, they may have referred you to the website, but you should definitely look at it, not for 5 minutes, but for a decent period of time so that you're familiar with the company, the website, look at, social media, see if there's, information on social media, possibly if there are any news articles. You want to show them that you've done your homework, you know where this company, what this company is all about, and that you do deserve to work there because, you are a person who takes the interview and the company seriously. The question that, here, what are your strengths? This is, again, a very, I'm going to say, frequently asked question. And again, they're really, it's really that your moment to discuss, a skill or personality trait or knowledge of something that is really tachlis to the position, okay? Certainly, if it's a job that's office administration, you want to discuss your solid computer skills, perhaps your solid social media skills, your comfort level with these things. So many, jobs are, have a social media aspect to them nowadays. Key buzzwords that you want to, when they ask you your strengths. So I always tell people you want to let them know you're professional. I don't think you could say that word enough in an interview. You want to say you're detail oriented, you're a fast learner, you're a team player, that you're organized. You can mention language skills if they certainly are relevant to the position. So many people, especially in the firm community, have a second, even a third language. So if you do know, and you have to, if you're going to say it, you really should be fluent in the language. So to say, I have a little bit of Ivrit, or I know Ivrit very well, then, that you could mention it, even if it does or it's not related to the job, but every language skill is another credential. And if you don't necessarily have a college background or degree, but you have 2 or 3 languages that you speak fluently, which so many people that I work with have that, ability, it's definitely something you want to highlight and let them know. And remember, for both strengths and weaknesses, it's important to keep it professional. What are your weaknesses? This is probably, it's not asked all the time, but it is probably the question that trips people up most frequently because they are thrown. People only want to discuss what's their strength. They really want to discuss their weakness. It's just a natural thing. None of us really do. You want to make sure what you really want to do is take a positive and turn it into a negative. You certainly don't want to say something like, well, I'm not a morning person, or I don't like to speak to anyone before noon, or I'm not, I'm not, I can't deal with anything until I have, 3 cups of coffee in the morning. What you want to do is, make something that's strong. You could twist it around a little bit. For example, you could say that I'm very detail oriented, and because I'm very detail oriented, I may take a little longer to finish an assignment or a project because I really do want it to be perfect. Or I am very focused on making sure my customers, my clients are happy, and I, will take longer than necessary just to make sure that they have what they need, that the assignment is finished correctly, that my client or my customer is happy when they leave, and that I've done my job. You could say, you could also say, if you have a skill that you are working on that needs improvement, so maybe you do want to say, I have some, my computer skills are good, but my PowerPoint could use some refresher, and I am working on that right now. Or I have basic Excel, I'm working on making sure that it's a little stronger. Or, I am, a lot of jobs that are office related do even now require knowledge of QuickBooks. While you may not have a bookkeeping background, there are often QuickBooks classes, tutorials you could take. You could say, I'm working to increase my QuickBooks proficiency so I could be an all-around office manager. But again, it's really keeping it professional, and that, you don't come across as like, well, the employer's going to say, oh, well, this person really, I would be afraid to touch this person. They don't want to be spoken to before noon, or, they don't, they can't, they don't want people telling them what to do, or things like that. So it is very important, that you know how to do this. And I've worked with a lot of people on these questions, making sure that they have the right answers. And sometimes it is a learning curve. There may be times you go to an interview and you do make a mistake, you do something wrong. Number one, it happens to everyone. So what you want to do is keep going. You don't want to, you don't want to, show them that you are, uncomfortable. But even if the interview doesn't go well, you could still learn from your mistakes and just use it to get stronger for your next interview. The next question we have here, what are your greatest professional achievements? This is for obviously people with, more solid work experience. If you do have 5 or 10 years of work experience, you should, take the opportunity to discuss some achievement and discuss the benefit of it. Did you streamline something in your job? Were you able to increase profits of a certain product? Were you able to take a procedure and streamline to save time and money? If there were any roadblocks that you had to overcome or challenging customer interactions that you were able to resolve. Again, and we could discuss this, as I'm working with people, try to tailor it to prior background and possibly the job that you're interviewing for. Tell me about a time you faced a challenge or conflict and how you were able to resolve it. So again, this could, throw people off certainly for, a moment or two. Even if you don't have work experience and you're a recent yeshiva grad or seminary grad and you're young and, you may well have had volunteer experience where you had to come up with a solution to a problem. Maybe it was in camp or shlichut if you went on shlichut, or even in school. Perhaps you had campers who didn't get along. You were the counselor. You had to figure out a way to get these, non-cooperative campers to get along and to listen to you. Or if there were two kids that didn't get along, how did you resolve the conflict? How did you make it that they were able to have a positive experience? If you went on shlichut, maybe you were, dealing with a lot of different situations with people who maybe weren't responsive to being outreached, and how you work to overcome, their fears or concerns and to help them grow in Yiddishkeit. So you should have some one or two things prepared. Maybe you won't have to use it, but if you do, it just helps you to feel more confident in the interview. Again, what are your salary expectations? This can also be a little bit of a trick question. The employer may be saying it and looking for you to trip up. You do want to be realistic. If it's an entry-level job, you should be prepared to, be, saying you're looking for a good opportunity, and that's really what you're looking for, a good opportunity. I wouldn't obsess about whether it's going to pay $1 more or less an hour. The learning experience that you could have will be invaluable. And also, bear in mind, many times your starting salary, most times, is not your ending salary. If you do well, you could be hired at $15 an hour. A few months later or 6 months later, you might be given a raise. You might be given another raise at the year mark. I have many clients who have had these experiences, and people who were hired at relatively low salaries are now, when they touch base with me, and thankfully I have a lot of people that do keep in touch over the years, I'm so happy to hear how well they're doing. They may have stayed with the same company and grown internally. And, salaries that were not even 15 an hour several years ago, they may be earning $50,000, $60,000 now. And, they understood that they needed to take that first step. And, you need to take that first step to move forward. If it, sometimes, especially right now, given this terrible situation, people have lost jobs. A lot of people are not in a good place. You may be in a situation where you need to take one step back to take 2 steps forward, or even 2 steps back to take 3 steps forward. That said, that means, right, maybe you were earning $45,000 and now you're in a situation where the employer is prepared to offer you 35 to 40, and they really can't go higher. It's a hard call, but if you say no, you may be shooting yourself in the foot, or even both feet, because you don't know if you're going to get another offer at 45, and the job that you're saying no to might really be your ticket to moving forward again. I think if people are honest, as they get older, they will say often, life is not a steady upward, ascent. There are ups and downs, and, the mountain, you go up, then sometimes you may go down, then you go up again and you go down a little bit. I think that is most people's experiences. So again, we can discuss this. There are websites, payscale.com, but certainly if you reach out to me, I will give you my email is j.prince@jccgci.org. Again, j.prince, PRINCE @jccgci.org. Rabbi Rudy can forward your information on to me as well as my phone number. But we can discuss this because it is, again, salaries can be a sticking point, but also another thing I want to mention, if the job in question, if the job in question offers benefits, that is also an important consideration. And that is, again, separate to salary, if they're prepared to offer you insurance, health insurance, other perks, paid leave, paid vacation. Obviously, these things should all be seriously considered when you're taking a job. Knowing, for instance, if you're going to a firm company, that your work week will end without questions asked come 1 o'clock or even 2 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. That's an important thing to consider, because when you're going into the outside world and it seems tempting because the salaries may be good and you may feel it's a different environment. I have to tell you, and I worked in both Hamish and non-Hamish settings, the outside world doesn't really get totally why you have to leave for 4 months or 5 months of the year no later than 2 o'clock on a Friday. They'll say it's not a problem, but I guarantee you there will be times that it becomes a problem. Your colleagues may not like it. Your supervisor may get tired of it. They may not understand Yontif and Erev Yontif and all these things. So again, these are all the things you want to consider in taking a job. How comfortable will you be? And these are things that sometimes people find out the hard way. The grass is not always greener. But again, we can discuss this, in one-on-one settings. So just going over quickly what the main do's and don'ts are. This is very important. You do want to dress professionally. You do want to maintain eye contact. You do well, okay, again, offering a firm handshake, assuming you're in an in-person interview and a Zoom interview. This is a non-event. But you want to be confident, not cocky. I think the not cocky should be said, because even acing the job interview, sometimes if you think you're going to ace the interview, you may come off a little cocky. And I always encourage my clients, you should feel confident. You shouldn't go in feeling not confident, but not so cocky that you come across as you have an attitude or that you're prepared to do the job of the hiring manager. So this is important. Again, you want to be prepared. At a Zoom meeting, you're not going to necessarily have to bring resumes with you, but again, you should be prepared. You should be prepared for anything they ask. Certainly, you need to be prepared to offer references, and references are a whole separate discussion. But I would say at the first interview, you should probably have your references with you. You don't necessarily have to give them unless they ask for it. I will discuss when you should give them references. But again, being prepared is having resumes, having your references, references, not just a name, but the contact information, the cell numbers of the people you're putting down, not just a general phone number of where they work, and certainly emails. As someone who's had to check a number of references, I can tell you, it's very frustrating when you can't reach a person's references, and people who probably would have been hired were not, because their references were difficult to track down, didn't get back, just contact information wasn't appropriate. And again, you're nearly there. But if you don't do your homework with the references, it will come back to bite you. Again, on the do list, you want to be concise and clear with all your responses. You certainly want to make sure to silence your cell phone. That's certainly a no-no if your cell phone goes off in the middle of an interview. Same thing goes with Zoom, that you want to make sure you're in a silent place, that there isn't the background noise or other distractions. That you, again, arrive, as I mentioned earlier, at least 10 minutes early. Not so early that they're put off by the fact that you came an hour early and they weren't ready to meet you, but that you should come 10 minutes early to show that you're really, taking this seriously, and that most likely they will have some paperwork that they'd like you to fill out. So you want to give yourself time to do it and not be distracted, and not be, distracted or stressed out. The don'ts: never be dishonest. Okay. That's the worst thing you can do. A lie will always come back to bite you. If you do not have a degree, don't say you do. If you didn't have a certain job title, don't say you did. It's a small world, it's a small Jewish world, and these things will come back to bite you. Even if you're hired for the job, if they find out you've been dishonest in something, they could easily fire you, and just that could be firing at will. So that's something to bear in mind. Don't make negative comments. This is usually about past employers, or past people you've worked with. Sometimes if you've been let go from a position, you may be feeling a certain amount of anger or negativity, and you don't want to come across as bitter or angry, and your person who's interviewing you may feel, oh, well, I guess after this person leaves me, they'll be saying the same terrible things about me to the next person. So these are very important things to consider. Certainly don't chew gum or candy, silly things like that during an interview. And same thing for drinking water or having a cup of coffee. I remember I was shocked when someone, had a coffee with them and was just whatever, sipping on it. I'm saying, if I, it just takes away from your whole professional demeanor when you do that. You can have the coffee before or after, but certainly not during. The same thing, obviously, for cigarettes. Don't ramble. Again, this goes back to being concise and clear. Don't use slang. Don't say inappropriate language. I don't know why people would do it, but sometimes people want to be cool, or they think it's they're sort of like, talking to their, maybe a young guy, maybe it happens the interviewer that you're talking to is your age, and you want to appear like he's a friend, but he's not. I mean, he is someone who's interviewing you. It's a professional relationship. So you really have to be careful with how you're speaking. For a first interview, especially, don't go into details about the benefits or what the salary is. That's not for a first interview. Don't answer questions with yes or no, because that's just, you want to give them a sense that you can answer the questions. Yes, I do have this experience, and let me explain it a little more. No, I haven't used that particular software package, but I could learn it quickly, and it's something that I feel I would pick up very quickly. Don't do like which people do when they're nervous. Everyone has little, I'll say shtiklach, but again, you don't want to play with, for the men, your beard or your hair or your hands. You don't want to do things that, make you, look not professional. So, in addition to the questions that the hiring manager or the employer is asking you, you're also entitled to ask some questions of the interviewer. You probably should have at least one or two to ask, because after they're done, they will say, do you have any questions? It's a careful balance right now. You don't want to bombard them. You don't want to have a list of 20 questions that you're asking, because they will get a little bit concerned. Wow, where is this person coming from? They're going to be a tough person to have to manage and work with. But it is okay to have a couple, and it is okay to find out a little more about, if they haven't elaborated about the responsibilities of the job. It is okay to say, what are the primary responsibilities of the position that I'm applying for? Maybe you want to get more clarification. You want to make sure you do have the qualifications to do the job, because it may turn out it's just not something you can handle, and it's better to be upfront if that's the case. You could certainly ask them, what is the key to succeeding in the role? What things should I do? What do I need to do? Are there opportunities for personal and professional growth? I mean, again, based on the context of the interview, this may not be, it may be a very small office, and maybe there are not a lot of opportunities, but you should consider this. I mean, look, even a small office, if you need that first job, it can be a great opportunity for personal and professional growth, because you'll be learning a lot of things. I mean, being flexible and doing things that are outside your job is never a bad thing. Many years ago, a person I work with mentioned that said to me, Jeffrey, you should always be flexible. And I could certainly tell you I've needed to be flexible with so many things to learn so many things. Even right now, trying to navigate Zoom, we're all on a constant learning curve. So it is okay to ask some questions. One of the things I say, one thing you definitely want to do before you leave the interview, ask them for their business card. All right, on a Zoom, you're not going to do that exactly, but if you're in the in-person meeting, ask them for their business card. You want to know their job title, their email address will be on the business card. You want to make sure you know who you spoke to. So many times I speak to people, and the first question is, so who did you speak to at this company? And even if I've set up the interview, maybe it wasn't with HR. It turned out HR referred them to another department. So okay, so who did you speak to? Oh, I don't know. I didn't get their name. How are you going to find out? So it's like you need to know who you spoke to. You want to make sure you have their email address and their phone number. I mean, not their cell number, but you do want a business number so that you can, ideally follow up with them. And an email address, so important because you want to, which we're going to discuss in a moment, you want to be able to send them a short and polite thank you note. So if there's one before that interview ends, whether it's the in-person meeting or the Zoom meeting, that you get their, contact information, okay? It is so important. Again, the thank you email, it's a must. It is, derech eretz. They have taken a half hour, possibly an hour, possibly more out of their day to talk to you and meet with you. The least you should do is to thank them. It just shows derech eretz that you're a mensch. Again, I always make sure all my clients are doing this, people that I'm working with, and I have to tell you, most people don't. So when you do this, you immediately give yourself 1 step, 2 steps ahead of all your competition, that they're, impressed that you actually said the words thank you. It's not a 5-paragraph rundown. It is a short and polite thank you, for the meeting. And again, what should you put into the thank you letter? It's thanking them for their time, not excessively, just a polite thank you very much for this opportunity. If there were questions or concerns that they had, do you have enough Excel background? Or you could say, again, as I said, I'm working to improve my Excel and possibly PowerPoint, or I am semi-comfortable with eBay, Amazon, if that's something, it's an e-commerce kind of situation, and I'm working to become more comfortable. You want to keep it brief and concise. Probably 2 or 3 paragraphs is more than enough. So important to proofread that you don't want to send something with mistakes. That's certainly, it could happen. Well, again, you're guaranteed if you don't proofread it, you will have a mistake. And sometimes you may even want to ask if you have another person to just look at it, because sometimes another pair of eyes will catch, every mistake as well. I should also add too, as important that it is to proofread your thank you letter, it's so important to proofread your resume, because the worst thing you want to do is to have a silly mistake on your resume and it comes back to bite you. Maybe you have misspelled, the name of your company where you're working right now, or you have a blatant typo or more than one typo in the email. You've transposed dates. You transposed your cell phone number. You've left off a digit of your cell phone number. You have, inappropriately written down your email address, leaving off, or, every period, every, thing counts in an email address. So how many people, has this, come back, and it could really, they'll just feel, oh, well, they weren't professional about the resume. How professional are they going to be about doing my job if I hire them? So it is, proofread is so important. And again, at the end of the email, you certainly want to make sure you have your contact information one more time. Again, you can't put you want to put down your cell phone and your email. Employers will, as certainly probably email. Sometimes they text. I don't know. I mean, so you just have to be aware and be prepared to that they can reach you any way that they want. With the thank you note, even if they haven't specifically asked for it, this is a place to put your references. So again, after you've thanked them for the meeting and you're letting them know that you are very interested in the job, and this thank you note should certainly be sent out within 24 hours of the interview. If you had the interview today on a Monday and you just send the thank you note out Friday of this week or next Monday, they'll say, oh, wow, were they interested at all? It came as such an afterthought. They may have even hired someone else in the process while you're, thinking about writing it. So it's something that's done same day, or certainly no later than the next day. And you should include your references. Excuse me. You should have at least 2 references. 3 is really ideal. 3 is often what people will want. There should be your obviously name, their job title, and their phone number and or email. If you don't have a lot of work experience, references can be teachers, verbatim, principals of schools, perhaps a rabbi that knows you and knows your family, that can speak well of you. We could discuss this because, again, references are a sticking point for a lot of people. Okay, so thank you. I just want to, again, people who do want to contact me, my email is j.prince, P-R-I-N-C-E. It's j.prince@jccgci.org. And I do want to say too, I am a colleague, proud to be a colleague of Rabbi Werde, a huge shayach to Rabbi Werde on this amazing program he's been doing. I've personally watched most of the people who have been giving presentations. I've learned a huge amount. I hope you have as well. And if you haven't watched some of them, please do so, because they're all so informative, and even areas that you didn't think you would have any interest in. It's so interesting to find out how someone got started. Okay, I mean, personally, I didn't know anything about being a Shaitzal Malcha, but I certainly learned a lot when I listened to that presentation. I didn't know a lot about whatever being a construction manager, but I learned so much listening to the individual give that presentation. And these are all done to help you, and we want to help you. You've heard also one of my colleagues, Ben Sion Siegel, gave 2 amazing presentations earlier in the preceding weeks, also on doing a resume and also on personality tests. And we work together as a team. My other colleagues are Chaim Philman and Mindy Reichberg, and they are excellent job developers. And the point is, we're here to help you, and we're here to be a team and help you move forward. All right, thank you so much.
Okay, Jeff, this was a fantastic presentation, and you really covered everything. Incredible, very thorough. Thank you very much. I do want to say, though, that we actually went way over our allotted time. We're officially supposed to do a half hour. We're now in 45 minutes. So actually, we don't have time to take questions. If anyone is watching this and has questions, please, again, Jeff gave his direct email. That's j.prince@jccgci.org, or you could reach out to me, workforce@jccgci.org. We are here year-round, free service to help you with all of these things: career counseling, resume writing, direct job placement. Jeff has placed hundreds and thousands of people in his career, and we love to help you land that job. So please reach out to us at any time. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much, Jeff. Everybody, take care.